Thanks for checking out episode 2 of my series, Why You Should Play This Week. I cover games new and old, of all genres, and on all platforms, with the intention of helping you find your next favorite game. This was a great week. For the past few months, I've been exploring AAA games that I missed out on. The Far Cry series has always been on my radar, so I decided to dive into the latest game, Far Cry 6, on the PlayStation 5. This game is huge. The island of Yara is enormous, and playing this on a next-gen system has been incredibly entertaining. Next up is the latest game from indie developer Slowclap, Sifu. This is a brilliant martial arts beat-em-up that requires skill and patience, not just button mashing. I love supporting indie game developers, and games like Sifu make it easy to do so. Speaking of indie games, Trek to Yomi was recently released on the PS4 and 5, PC, and Xbox systems. Revenge seems to be on the menu this week because we see another young warrior trying to settle a score and save the people he loves. Heavily inspired by Akira Kurosawa films, Trek to Yomi uses black and white visuals to great effect. The stark shadows and low light make for a visual treat I couldn't truly appreciate until I got the controller in my hands. Far Cry 6 is the latest in a long line of games that not only include the numbered series but offshoots like New Dawn. Now I've bought a couple of Far Cry games and I didn't play them much. It was always like, oh, I'll play it later, I'll try it when I catch up on my backlog, which apparently is never. So in researching the Far Cry series, I found out some interesting things. The very first Far Cry came out in 2004 and it was developed by Crytek with the Cry engine. Now that was the only game they developed. It got good reviews and praise, and I just thought that was really interesting that those games and Crytek would be linked. Now after the first one, it went to Ubisoft Montreal and eventually Ubisoft Toronto. This latest version came out in October of last year, 2021. It was released on the PS4 and 5, PC, and all the Xbox consoles, and it received generally positive reviews.
This could be useful.
Me, having not played the previous games, I couldn't have the same viewpoint as a lot of people who are fans, because one of the main criticisms I see about these games is that they don't shake up the formula. It's kind of just a bigger, prettier version of the last game. Now, I can't say to that. Eventually I will, but right now I can tell you that Far Cry 5 or Far Cry 6 on the PlayStation 5 is a very impressive game, and the island of Yara is huge, and this is very open-ended, chaotic, and really a lot of fun. Yara is the setting for Far Cry 6, and it's a fictional island in the Caribbean where, Giancarlo Esposito, the guy from Breaking Bad, plays Anton Castillo. He's like the dictator of this island. They grow tobacco and use this special chemical to create a compound that is effective at treating cancer. So he keeps wanting to say, hey, we're going to build paradise. We're going to bring Yara back. But really, he's kidnapping and forcing people as slaves to develop this stuff. And you are part of Libertad, a resistance group that's pretty small, but is led by a very charismatic woman who gets you all pumped up, and you end up just trying to defeat Castillo. So there were two reasons why I decided to pick up Far Cry 6. One is that it was on sale. The Days of Play sale on PlayStation Network is really good, and I got the gold version, which is the season pass and the game, for $39.99. The second reason is because I'm a huge Stranger Things fan. And when the new season released, they did a crossover mission where you get to fight Demogorgons, and it just looked really cool. Now, I haven't done the mission yet, but I'll admit that's probably one of my main motivations for grabbing it. I'm having a great time with Far Cry 6, and I'll continue to play it over the weeks to come. I've got other games to cover, and there's a lot of indie games dropping right now. Speaking of, Sifu was released February 8th of 2022, and it's on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. You might recognize the name Slowclap. That's the developer of Sifu. And before Sifu, they created a really great game called Absolver. It was an online combat game, and it very much in the gameplay realm of Sifu. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. They're no longer updating it, but it's still a pretty busy game. I still hop on once in a while. Now, Sifu is a martial arts combat game. For some reason, though, I am hesitant to call it a beat-em-up, because the combat system is actually really complex. You can't just button mash your way through this game. This game takes patience and skill, and once you start to learn the system, it just feels natural and just fantastic. I've been having a really good time with Sifu, and it appears a lot of other people have been too. It's got a really good rating on Metacritic, like over 80. It has sold a bunch of copies. But for some reason in my sphere in the internet, on YouTube and TikTok, I don't see a lot of people talking about it. So they did do some updates to the game because people were saying it was too difficult. So now you have an optional, easier difficulty. And you'll still get a lot out of it. The story is really great, but the focus is on the action and some of the exploration, like you're seeing here. You find items in the field and pieces of information, and you are going after someone who killed your master. And you have to go through his generals first. Now, the one really cool mechanic of this is if you die, you age. So, he starts out at 20 years old, you'll die, and then he ages to 22. Now, depending on how much you die, you actually age further and further. I had my character up past 40. Don't let frustration of losing in this game deter you. This game is fantastic and a must-play for anybody who likes action games. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing this on other platforms. This game was a big hit, and I think releasing it on Xbox, I don't know if the Switch could do it, would be really cool, because this game needs a bigger fan base, and I'm hoping they'll create DLC and more updates, maybe leading into a sequel. It seems good enough, but when it comes to independent games, it doesn't get that much better than Sifu. Definitely check it out. The most recent game on this episode is Trek to Yomi, which was released in May of this year, so it's not even been out a month yet. Now, I'm hesitant to cut this video up much because you need to see this game in motion and the way it's presented. It takes place during the Edo period in Japan, with a big focus on Shinto mythology. Now, you don't have to understand what any of that means to enjoy this game. Now, that said, I'm a big fan of Akira Kurosawa, the Japanese director who did Seven Samurai and Yojimbo and other films. So when I saw this, I immediately thought of that and I was really excited. But I don't think you need to be a fan of those things to enjoy this game. The gameplay mechanics are really fun, and again, with this game, like Sifu, it's not too button mashy. While it's a little bit simpler, timing is important. Going through the environments is, it's just gorgeous. The way you get these special camera angles and the black and white visuals. Man, I don't know how they did it, but there's so much depth and great imagery in just black and white. I had a ton of fun with this game, and it's the reason why I saved it for last. This is available on Xbox Game Pass, and that's where I got it. Now, I will gladly pay for this game when it's off of Game Pass. The game is relatively short. It's only about 5 hours long, maybe a little longer. But sometimes I appreciate that. Sometimes I just want a game that is, I can sit down in 2 days and beat it. It's nice to mix things up, and if you don't play short games, this could be the game that gets you into it. It feels like a whole, complete game, and when you finish it, it'll stay with you. I will go back to this game and talk about it in later episodes and other social media, because I feel like if you like side-scrolling action games and you're into really good presentation, this is a game for you. The main character is a young man who trained as a samurai, and again, he goes to possibly avenge his master. There's a lot of drama. You get attached to some of these characters, and the thing that got me the most is you really see the desperation of these people he's trying to protect. You are fighting ruthless, brutal people, and this man almost on his own, has to take them on and try to save what's left of his village and the people around him. Thank you for joining me on this second episode of Why You Should Play This Week. Now, since the series is so young, I am still toying around with the format. I might start putting previews in episodes. That's why I gave it that name. I wanted to be pretty open-ended. I appreciate you watching the video. If you got this far, you're a real one, man. I've got a lot more to come. I post on TikTok every day at Why You Should Play Again. And I have a lot of shorts that I put on this. So if you haven't, hit subscribe, check out my shorts, my TikTok. I've got a lot of content constantly coming out. I just want to say thank you. Take care of each other, gamers. I'll see you soon.